Hi, I'm the Director for Common Knowledge Trust, and we produce Birthing Better Childbirth Preparation online course. Today I want to start talking to you about the specific skills that Birthing Better families created in the early 1970s. Now, in the online course, there are a number of skills because childbirth is a three-dimensional experience, to say the least. And so families really wanted skills that sort of covered every single gap, every single issue, every single aspect of what they might go through. And that's important. We, for some reason within society, just have this belief there's nothing you can do about your birth because there's no way to know how it unfolds. Well, we don't know how it's going to unfold, but it will unfold. And there are so many skills for us to learn that will help us work through the unfolding of the birth of our baby. And that can't be underestimated. It's really important that we elevate giving birth to an art. And that art is for every birth. It doesn't matter how you give birth to your baby. As long as you're conscious, you can fill your time and you can develop your relationship to your baby's birthing experience and to your partner and to yourself as a human being by being skilled. So what we're going to do is do a series of these, which is going to cover all of the skills. But we have to do a little at a time because there are a lot of skills. Now, we've tended to refer to the Birthing Better skills either as hard skills or soft skills, which is difficult because the word hard can imply that it's difficult, but none of the skills are difficult to learn. They're hard because they tend to be more hands-on and practical, and the soft skills tend to be more subjective and the how to apply the practical skills into whatever birthing situation you're in. So the birth skills in Birthing Better are universal. You are either pregnant or you're not pregnant, and if you are pregnant, you will give birth. And all pregnant women share a pregnant body, and every woman and man shares the same human body. So Birthing Better skills are the common body language around pregnancy and birth, and that's a good thing. So today we're going to talk a little bit about breathing. We breathe all the time. But the reality is we know nothing about breathing, and we can't assume that when we're giving birth, we're going to breathe the same way that you are when you're just sitting here doing nothing. So think for a minute about how you normally breathe. Think for a minute how your breathing varies, and if you're even aware that it varies. And think about answering this simple question: what are the 4 ways that all humans breathe? If you find yourself pausing at that question, you are like everybody else. We don't think about those things. So certainly some people say, well, I've done yoga breathing. Okay, so what does that mean? That's a pretty general term, and there are a lot of different types of yoga breathing. Others will say, well, I do a particular sport. I run the 100-yard dash, and we don't breathe during that period of time. Well, okay, so, but a 100-yard dash is different than the length of time it takes to give birth, even if it's driving to the hospital to be prepped and lying on a table while you're having a cesarean and being sewn up. So breathing is complex, and we don't think about it, but we breathe all the time. And in fact, breathing is a fundamental skill while you give birth, because breathing, when you listen to somebody breathe, you can tell whether they're stressed or not. So in the ebook on sustainable breathing, the adaptability of it and how breathing adjusts when you have good breathing patterns, that's one of our ebooks in the Birthing Better Childbirth Preparation class. So the first thing we had to do was to fill in the gaps as families for those of us who had used breathing techniques for previous births and had found that they didn't work. So when breathing did work, often you say to somebody, did you use breathing skills? And most people would say, well, I have no idea, I just breathed. And then for those women who said, I really focused on my breathing, they couldn't articulate what that meant. That's a disadvantage, because if we can't pass on skills, to each other, share skills together, pass them on generationally, then we have a problem. And the Birthing Better skills are easy to learn, and they are universal, and we can explain them to each other. And we can share what we're doing and how we're doing, and that's really, really important. So the first thing we had to realize was that everything that's being taught around breathing and childbirth are techniques, and techniques are not the same as skills. 99.9% of the breathing techniques are focused on achieving this thing called a natural birth. And so therefore, if you don't have a natural birth or you have more medical interventions, then you feel that those breathing techniques don't work. Or if you feel that they're working when your contractions aren't particularly painful, and then they get painful, and then they stop working, those are techniques. They don't work. That's a difference between skills. Skills are techniques, but skills go beyond techniques in the sense that you know how to adjust and adapt them to the situation that you're experiencing, and that's important. And for us to even begin to develop the depth of skill required to have a good breathing pattern throughout our births, we had to understand the 4 ways that humans breathed. So it's really important that you understand that we only breathe 4 ways as human beings. None of us breathe in and out our ears. None of us breathe in and out our toes. Nobody breathes in and out the top of the head. Yes, we do breathe in our lungs and expand our lungs, but that's not exactly the answer we're looking for. So the answer we're looking for is in the nose, out the nose. In the nose, out the mouth. In the mouth, out the nose, and in and out the mouth. Those are the 4 ways humans breathe. But when we acknowledge that about ourselves, we had to go to a deeper level, and that's what makes the Birthing Better skills so powerful, is that we had to figure out what these deeper levels were and what that all meant to us. So what we had to do is ask ourselves, when do we breathe in and out our nose? When do we breathe in our nose and out our mouth? When do we breathe in our mouth and out our nose? When do we breathe in and out our mouth? So you need to think about those things. But that's still only a superficial level. Because then we had to take a look at each of those breathing patterns and figure out how they varied. So if you breathe in and out your nose, most of the time we don't even know we're doing it. But that's how most people just breathe when they're in a relaxed state. But you can vary in and out the nose. You can breathe more slowly, intentionally. You can breathe more rapidly. So you can hold your breath. So even breathing in the nose and out the nose has variations. So what we want you to do is to go through in the nose and out your mouth and find those variations. Think about when you breathe in your mouth and out your nose. That's a complicated one, but we do it. And what we discovered is we do it when we're startled or when we suddenly get splashed with cold water or jump into cold water. It's a startle reflex. Okay? In and out the mouth. When do we do that? And then we had to go to a deeper level, which was we had to figure out for ourselves what were the good breathing patterns that created relaxation in ourselves. And what were the breathing patterns that indicated to ourselves and the others around us when we were having difficulty coping in birth. That's important. So the ebook in Birthing Better, Childbirth Preparation, that focuses on those 4 types of breathing, the variations, having you think about which are good patterns for you, having you practice those good patterns together with your partner, is really, really important. That's 44 pages. This is not rocket science. This is not hard. So you want to learn good breathing patterns that adapt. And the reason you want them to adapt and change has to do with one of the soft skills that we'll talk about later, particularly around labor, which is that each contraction is broken up into 5 phases. And during those 5 phases, the intensity of the pain of the contraction changes. So your breathing is going to change. And you get to choose at every inhale and every exhale how you breathe. And there's even a deeper layer to that, which is how to use every inhalation to open up and every exhalation to soften inside our body. Our job as a birthing woman is to create space, mobility, softened space inside for our baby to come through us. That's our job. And the job of our husband or our partner or other loved one is to help us do that. So together you need to go through the Sustainable Breathing ebook. Talk to you later.